there's an uncomfortable truth we rarely dare to face. It's not age that wears us down the most, but the invisible habits we repeat every single day. You could be 60, 70, or even older and still feel as vibrant as someone much younger. Or the opposite, feeling drained too soon because of habits that seem small, but in reality, steal your energy, clarity, and joy. The hardest part is that many of these habits don't even register as harmful. They sneak into our routine like a silent guest, dimming the light without us noticing. I'm Gabriel, and I've been studying and practicing Stoicism as a way of life for over 15 years. I've worked with hundreds of people across the world, people like you who are searching for clarity, courage, and serenity in the midst of life's uncertainties. And along the way, I've seen time and again how certain habits accelerate the wear, not just of the body, but especially of the spirit. I've seen how a simple daily neglect turns into years of accumulated fatigue, dull skin, low spirits, and that sinking feeling that life is slipping through our fingers. But I've also seen the opposite, how small, consistent changes can bring back the sparkle in the eyes, strength in the step, and peace in the heart. In this talk, we're going to uncover 13 habits that, without you realizing it, are making you age faster. We'll unmask them one by one, with the calm of a long conversation, with practical philosophy, with real experiences, and with simple ways to let them go. This isn't about living in fear of aging, but about taking back control and choosing with awareness how you want to grow older, with fullness, with purpose, and with dignity. Let's begin. Number 1. Accumulated resentment. Resentment is like holding a burning coal in your fist, waiting for the chance to throw it someday. But in the meantime, you're the one getting burned inside. Throughout my life, I've seen people slowly wither away because they can't let go of old offenses, silently replaying a betrayal or an unfair word someone spoke to them 20 or 30 years ago. And the irony is that bitterness doesn't even affect the other person anymore. It just settles inside you like a heavy guest that speeds up your physical and emotional wear. Because yes, the body pays the price. More inflammation, more tension, more frown lines, more clenched jaws. It's aging that begins on the inside and shows up on the face. I remember a book on Eastern philosophy I read in my 20s where it talked about how vital energy either flows or gets stuck depending on what you feed in your heart. Back then, I didn't give it much importance, but over time I understood that resentment is one of the most common ways to block that energy. Every time I went back to chewing on something that had been done to me, I noticed my breath getting shallow, my body stiffening, and sleep becoming harder. It was as if the past still ruled my present, and that's when I realized no one deserves that much power over me. Let me share a little story to explain it simply. A blacksmith, tired of a debt his neighbor never paid, decided to hammer a rusty nail into the door of his workshop every time he remembered the offense. Years went by, and soon the door was covered in old nails, to the point where he could barely open it anymore. One day, an apprentice asked him why he carried such a heavy door, and the blacksmith couldn't answer. He had gotten so used to living with those nails that he forgot he was the one who put them there. Isn't that the same thing we do when we carry resentment with us every day? Stoicism has a clear answer. You can't control what others did to you, but you can choose what you do with that wound. Seneca said that anyone dragged along by resentment remains a slave to the offender, even when they're no longer around. And I believe he was right. We often think forgiveness is some kind of gift for the other person, when in reality, it's an act of self-rule, of personal freedom. It's not about forcing reconciliation or justifying what was unjustifiable, but about letting go of the rope that ties you to that moment. What helped me a lot was creating a simple 3-step protocol. First, name what you feel out loud. Yes, I'm hurt by this. Second, allow yourself to feel the emotion without disguising it or explaining it away. And third, choose a closing micro-action. Write a letter you'll never send. Go for a walk repeating a phrase of release, or even burn a piece of paper with the memory written on it. These gestures, small as they seem, are like pulling nails out of that invisible door we carry. Now I want you to try a short visualization. Close your eyes and think of someone who hurt you. Feel the tension rise in your body. Now imagine holding it in your hand like a hot stone. What would happen if you dropped it to the ground right now? What would happen to your breathing, to your shoulders, to your chest? That moment of relief is proof that you can let go, even if the story hasn't changed. Accumulated resentment makes us age because it takes away space meant for joy, calm, and creativity. You can't get back the years you lost to the wound, but you can choose to make the years ahead free of that burden. In the end, true youth isn't in the skin, it's in the ability to release what no longer serves you, and nothing wrinkles the spirit more than clinging to old pain. Life is far too short to keep hammering rusty nails into your door. Number 2, breathing shallow all day. Have you ever noticed that you spend hours breathing as if you were in a hurry, even while sitting still, calm, with no one chasing you? That shallow, fast, chest-level breathing seems harmless, but it's really like walking with the handbrake on. You move forward, yes, but you burn 3 times more energy than necessary, piling up tension in your shoulders, inflammation in your body, and a fatigue that has nothing to do with age. What's surprising is that we often associate aging with wrinkles or aches, but few realize that shallow breathing speeds up wear and tear by keeping the body in a constant state of alert. I experienced this myself during a stage of my life when I was running from one thing to the next, chained to the feeling that there was never enough time. By the afternoon, my back was stiff, my teeth clenched, and I carried a strange fatigue that neither coffee nor naps could fix. One day I stopped to observe and discovered I was barely using my diaphragm. I was breathing as if I were running a marathon while sitting at a desk. That's when I understood it wasn't the workload draining me, but the way I was breathing. The human body is designed to breathe slowly and deeply, like babies or animals when they rest. If you've ever seen a dog sleeping, you've noticed how its belly rises and falls gently, without effort. That's the natural way to oxygenate every cell, calm the nervous system, and give the heart a steadier rhythm. But modern life pushes us in the opposite direction. Emails, calls, screens rushing, and we end up trapped in a pattern of hypervigilance. No wonder so many people feel anxious, sleepless, or chronically tired. I want to share a simple tool I call the breath anchor. It's about taking advantage of idle moments, waiting in line, at a stoplight, or even in a doctor's office, to take 4 full, slow, deep breaths. Inhale through your nose, counting to 4, let the air sink down as if filling a glass from the bottom up. Pause briefly, and then exhale gently through your mouth. Do it with relaxed shoulders, without forcing it, as if letting out a sigh. In less than a minute, your body resets. I tried this for a full week once, and the results were incredible. By the end of each day, my back no longer felt so heavy, I fell asleep faster, and my energy stayed more stable. It was as if I had dropped an invisible weight I'd been carrying for years. That's the power of reclaiming something as basic as breathing. You don't need gadgets. You don't need pills. You only need to remember that your body knows how to breathe, even if you've forgotten. In Stoic philosophy, there's an emphasis on returning to what's essential, stripping away unnecessary extras. And what could be more essential than air? Epictetus said that the necessary things are easy to obtain, and air is the perfect example. It's always there, available, but we're the ones who forget to use it consciously. Try a small exercise right now. Place your hand on your abdomen, inhale, and see if it moves. If it doesn't, you've probably been breathing only with your chest. Restoring belly breathing is like giving your organs a massage from the inside. It won't magically rejuvenate your skin, but it will rejuvenate your nervous system. And that shows in your face, your voice, and your way of walking. So the next time you feel life speeding you up more than you'd like, don't run faster, breathe better. Because aging isn't just about adding years, it's about how you choose to oxygenate each moment. Number 3, sleeping in fragments. There's a silent bad habit that ages us more than any wrinkle, sleeping halfway, with interruptions, as if rest were a luxury you could chop into pieces. We spend nights glued to screens, answering messages at odd hours, with notifications that sound more urgent than our own health. The result is fragmented sleep, which keeps the body from doing what it knows best, repairing itself, reducing inflammation, clearing toxins from the brain, and restoring vital energy. The price shows up the next day in a dull face, a foggy mind, and a fragile mood. And if it builds up for weeks, months, or years, what really breaks down is your inner youth. I learned this the hard way. For a while, it seemed normal to wake up several times a night, check my phone just to see the time, and end up reading something random. I told myself it was fine, that I'd make up for it with coffee the next day. But reality was different. I woke up irritable, with tired-looking skin and a scattered mind. Until one day, reading about the neuroscience of sleep, I realized that what I was doing wasn't resting. It was like cutting a movie in half every single night. I never reached the deep stages where true repair happens. There's a huge difference between being tired and being sleepy. Tiredness is accumulated wear. Sleepiness is the body's signal that it's ready to shut down and renew itself. When we sleep in fragments, the body can't recognize those signals and stays stuck on the surface. That's why so many people say, "I sleep 8 hours, but I'm still exhausted." It's not the quantity, it's the quality shattered into pieces. I want to suggest a simple practice I call the golden hour. It's the 60 minutes before bed when you decide to treat your sleep as sacred. No screens, no TV, no phone. Choose warm light, a gentle tea, some light stretching, or write down what's on your mind so it doesn't keep spinning in your head. When I tried this, I noticed my body slipping into rest mode without resistance, as if it finally understood it was time to surrender to the night. There's a phrase from the Bible that has always resonated with me. "In peace I will lie down and sleep, for you alone, Lord, make me dwell in safety." Psalm 4:8. Whether you're a believer or not, the truth is that deep rest requires trust. Trust in your body, in life, in the fact that tomorrow will unfold without you controlling everything tonight. Insomnia and interruptions are often signs that we don't know how to let go of control. Here's an experiment I invite you to try. A full week without screens after dinner. That's it. At first, you may feel an odd emptiness, like withdrawal, but by the 4th or 5th night, your body starts to thank you. Your face looks brighter, your energy steadier, your mood softer. Sleeping through the night is like giving your body a free nightly rejuvenation workshop every single night. And here I want to pause to invite you to something important. If this video is resonating with you, subscribe to the channel right now. Hit the like button and tell me in the comments which country you're watching from. I'd love to know, because this community is a garden that blossoms with every story you share. And tell me as well, what change will you try tonight? Will you turn off your phone an hour earlier? Write down your to-do list? Or simply choose to honor your rest? Sleeping in fragments isn't aging. It's neglecting the natural workshop life gives you every night. And if you respect it, you'll see your energy, your clarity, and even your skin become allies, reminding you that it's still not too late to live fully. Number 4. Sugar for comfort. Few things make us age as quickly and silently as sugar, and I don't just mean obvious desserts, but that little sweet snack to calm anxiety, that coffee with 3 spoonfuls of sugar that seems harmless, those cookies that sneak into the afternoon. What begins as an innocent gesture to soothe yourself actually turns into a roller coaster that inflames your organs, drains steady energy, and shows up in your skin, your bones, and even your mood. The problem isn't the momentary pleasure, it's the bill that arrives afterward. More wrinkles, more fatigue, more irritability. I went through it myself during a time of heavy stress. Without realizing it, every afternoon I was turning to packaged pastries, little chocolates, and quick breads that felt like my only relief. For a short while, I felt better, as if everything had calmed down. But soon after came the crash. Drowsiness, lack of focus, and a gray mood. What's curious is that I repeated the cycle the very next day, convinced it was just a little treat. Until I finally understood, it wasn't a treat, it was a chain stealing my vitality. The body interprets every sugar spike as an emergency. It releases insulin to put out the storm, but when this process repeats several times a day for years, what you end up with is chronic inflammation, insulin resistance, and accelerated aging. It's like burning a candle from both ends. It shines brightly at first, but burns out far too quickly. Over time, I discovered that the key isn't banning all sweetness, but changing the order and intention. Something as simple as starting a meal with a savory bite, some protein, a salad with olive oil, a handful of nuts, makes the sugar spike much softer. Swapping certain breaks of anxiety with whole fruit, which comes with fiber and nutrients, also helps, instead of going for ultra-processed foods that just trigger hunger again. One of the tools that help me most is what I call the 15-minute rescue plan. Every time I felt the urge to rush for something sweet, I gave myself a quarter of an hour to do something else. Go for a walk, call someone, write down what I was feeling. 9 times out of 10, by the time I came back, I no longer needed the sweet. And if I still wanted it, I chose it consciously, not as anesthesia. There's a phrase from Seneca that has always stuck with me. Nothing is enough for the one to whom enough is too little. Sugar works the same way. It never truly satisfies. It always asks for more. The real challenge is recognizing when we're using it to cover an emotional void instead of nourishing ourselves. Because if what's missing is calm, love, or purpose, no chocolate will fill that gap. So ask yourself this: how many times do you eat something sweet because you truly enjoy it? And how many because you're trying to quiet something you can't name? That honesty with yourself is worth more than any strict diet. Sugar for comfort is a trap that ages not only your body, but also your spirit. But when you choose consciously what goes on your plate and into your life, you discover you don't need that false companion. What truly rejuvenates isn't a pill or a pastry. It's reclaiming the feeling that you're the one in control, not your anxiety. Number 5, sitting all the time. There's an image that stuck with me for a long time. Someone who exercises for an hour a day, but spends the other 23 sitting, watching TV, scrolling on their phone, or stuck at a desk. Modern sedentary life doesn't always look like laziness. Often it hides behind, I do my treadmill in the morning, but the rest of the day the body turns into a statue that barely moves. This is one of the habits that ages us the fastest, because the human body was designed to move throughout the day, not to pile all movement into a single block and then stay motionless. I fell into that trap myself. I remember a time when I was proud of my early workout routine, only to spend the rest of the day writing, reading, working while sitting down. I thought that 1 hour of training solved everything. But then came the back pain, the stiff legs, and a fatigue that didn't make sense. What I later learned is that prolonged inactivity damages circulation, metabolism, and even mood. Regardless of whether you exercised in the morning, the body needs what I call movement islands. Small breaks spread throughout the day to interrupt stillness. I'm not talking about running marathons or lifting weights at home, but something as simple as walking a few minutes every 90 minutes, standing up to stretch, taking the stairs instead of the elevator, or even doing a light squat before sitting back down. These gestures are like reminders to the body that it's still alive, that blood needs to flow and joints need to move. In Japan, I heard the story of a calligraphy master who, at 80 years old, stood tall and radiated enviable vitality. When asked his secret, he said, "I never let 2 hours go by without moving." He wasn't an athlete, nor did he follow a strict program. He had simply made movement a way of life. And that, more than any workout, is what keeps both body and mind young. Sedentary life ages us because it robs us of something not easily regained: mobility. When we stop moving, muscles weaken, joints lose their range, and vital energy slowly fades away. It's no coincidence that people who stay active in everyday ways, walking, dancing, climbing stairs, tending a garden, age with more lightness and fewer aches. If you think about it, constant movement is a reminder that you still have power over your life. You don't need a fancy gym or complex routines. It's enough to make your body an ally in daily life. The key question is, how much time do you spend sitting without even realizing it? Maybe youth isn't so much about a number of years, but about how often you remember to move. The habit of sitting all the time is like leaving a car parked for months. It rusts, it sticks, it won't start. But if you choose to move in small doses, your body rewards you with lightness, energy, and that feeling of vitality that no cream or supplement can give you. Because in the end, true youth lies in keeping on walking, even slowly, but never stopping. Number 6, screens at night. The glow of a screen seems harmless, but in reality, it's like a silent thief that sneaks into your home each night and steals hours of rest. Maybe you think watching a little TV before bed, checking your phone, just 10 more minutes, or finishing that episode won't do any harm. But your brain tells a different story. The blue light from screens tricks your body into believing it's still daytime, delays melatonin production, and disrupts your natural sleep rhythm. The result is that your body shuts down late, poorly, and halfway. And repeated for years, that ages you more than time itself. I remember when I decided to run a little personal experiment. 1 week with screens until midnight, and another week with no screens after dinner. The difference was brutal. That first week, I woke up with a tired face, a foggy mind, and a constant irritability. The second week, I woke up lighter, with more energy, and with the feeling of having truly rested. That's when I understood the problem wasn't just sleeping too little, it was sleeping out of sync at the wrong time. The brain works like an internal clock regulated by light. When it receives artificial light at the wrong time, especially the kind that screens emit, it confuses its cycles. It's like trying to plant seeds in winter and expecting them to sprout as if it was spring. The ground simply isn't ready, and the body pays for that confusion with premature aging. Skin loses its glow, memory weakens, mood declines. One of the most effective solutions I found was setting 2 clear rules: no screens in the bedroom and a warm light filter after sunset. It may sound drastic, but the truth is, no late-night message is more important than your health. If you want a real substitute for that last hour of the day, try reading a paper book, listening to soft music, or having a calm conversation. Small choices like these give your body back the chance to rest in peace. I once read an analogy that stuck with me. When you unplug the Wi-Fi router, the signal resets and everything works better the next day. Our brain is the same. You need to disconnect it from constant stimulation so that by morning it's fresh and renewed. Keeping it on with screens until late is like asking a motor to never turn off. It wears out faster than you think. Ask yourself honestly, how many hours of your life are you losing to nights that could have been spent regenerating, but you handed them over to a screen? The answer may sting, but it can also set you free. Screens at night make us age because they disrupt what's most vital: deep rest. And if you choose to set boundaries, you'll discover that life feels lighter, clearer, and more your own the next day. Because true youth isn't measured in wrinkles or gray hairs, but in how you wake up each morning. Number 7, sunken back. There's a scene you've probably seen on the street. An older person walking hunched over, eyes on the ground, shoulders collapsed, breath shallow. That posture doesn't just make someone look more tired or older than they are. It directly affects energy, mood, and the way the body functions. A sunken back reduces lung capacity, shortens steps, and sends a silent message to the mind. I'm exhausted. I'm defeated. The curious thing is that often it isn't age that bends us over, but the habits we've repeated for years. I went through that myself. For a period of my life, I spent hours leaning over a desk, writing or reading, without realizing that I was slowly closing in. One afternoon, I caught my reflection in a shop window and saw myself walking like someone carrying an invisible weight on their shoulders. It was a wake-up call. My first thought was, if I keep this up, I'll grow old with the posture of someone who already gave up. That day, I decided I had to change something as simple as how I carried my body. Posture isn't just about appearance. It influences how you breathe, how you digest, how energy is distributed, and even how others perceive you. An open, upright stance, with chest expanded and chin aligned, sends signals of confidence and vitality to the brain. It's as if body and mind feed each other. When you collapse, you think small. When you open up, you think with greater clarity and hope. Here's a simple posture check you can try right now. Stand against a wall with the back of your head, shoulders, and hips touching it. Breathe there for 1 minute and notice where you feel tension. That simple exercise is a physical reminder of how aligned posture should feel. Do it several times a day, not as punishment, but as a gift of presence. I once met a man who taught me something important without even trying. At 70, after a lifetime of back pain, he began practicing a couple of simple movements against the wall every morning. They weren't gym exercises, just mindful gestures, opening his chest, loosening his neck, circling his arms. 2 years later, I saw him walking taller than ever, with an energy that seemed to rejuvenate his whole face. He didn't need expensive treatments, just consistency and attention. I like to think of posture as the visible biography of each person. The body tells, without words, how you've lived your days. The question is, do you want your biography to say that you gave up, or that you're still standing with dignity? A sunken back ages you because it dims your breath and your spirit. But if each day you choose to open your chest and keep your gaze forward, you won't just look younger, you'll feel more alive. And believe me, that shows in every step you take. Number 8, overthinking everything. There's a habit that wears you down more than any physical work: rumination. Going over the same thing again and again, as if your mind were a scratched record stuck on the same track. The difference between thinking and ruminating is simple. Thinking looks for solutions. Ruminating only drains you. The sad part is that many times we believe we're solving something, when in reality we're stuck in the same loop as always. That habit doesn't just age the mind with anxiety and fatigue, it also shows in the body. Frown lines, clenched jaws, stiff shoulders, sleepless nights. It's like running on a treadmill. You burn energy, but never get anywhere. I lived it myself during a time when I felt responsible for far too many things. I went to bed replaying conversations, decisions, possible scenarios. I woke up in the middle of the night with the same endless list running through my head. And of course, the next day I was exhausted, with a dull look in my eyes and a heavy body. That's when I discovered a practice that saved me: setting appointments with the problem. Instead of ruminating all day, I set a 15-minute timer, wrote down what worried me, and forced myself to leave it there. The rest of the time, whenever my mind tried to go back to it, I reminded myself, you already have an appointment with that, not now. That simple ritual gave me back both mental and physical space. Stoic philosophy offers a principle that cuts rumination at the root: the dichotomy of control. What depends on you, take clear action. What doesn't, let it go. It sounds simple, but in practice it's a daily exercise in humility. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations that it isn't worth mortgaging the present with worries borrowed from the future. That line stuck with me because I realized rumination is exactly that: living in debt to scenarios that may never happen. Picture a wise old man sitting at the entrance of a village. A restless young man arrives, pouring out all his fears about what could happen tomorrow. The elder listens, then hands him 2 sacks, one full of stones, the other empty. Each stone is a fear that doesn't depend on you, he says. Choose. Do you want to keep carrying this sack, or drop it here and walk lighter? That parable reminds me, again and again, that much of what I think about isn't real weight, but imagined. If you want a practical exercise, try this. Write 3 lines on a piece of paper. On the first, something you can actually do today about your concern. On the second, something that depends on others. On the third, something that belongs to time and will only resolve with patience. Keep that paper and repeat it whenever you fall into the loop. It's a visual reminder that not everything deserves your energy. We ruminate because we think it gives us control, but in reality, it does the opposite. It makes us lose it. And that loss of control ages us because it steals calm, clarity, and joy. Life already has enough real problems without also carrying invented ones. Drop the scratched record and bring back the music of your present. Number 9, living without purpose. There's an invisible kind of wear that ages us more than wrinkles. Waking up every morning without a why. Without purpose, life turns into a calendar that flips by without direction, a routine that repeats without soul. Little by little, it dims your inner spark, makes you feel like nothing really matters, and that emptiness ends up reflected in your body, your posture, your gaze. Purpose doesn't have to be something massive, saving the world or creating an immortal masterpiece. It's about having a clear direction that gives meaning to your days. I learned this the hard way. There was a stage in my life when I fulfilled all my obligations but felt hollow inside. I had time, I had health, but I lacked direction. That's when I discovered Viktor Frankl, who said that anyone with a why can endure almost any how. And I understood it in the most ordinary sense. Purpose isn't always found in great missions, but in small decisions that transform a single day. When I found my purpose in guiding others on the path of Stoicism, life regained its energy. It wasn't magic, it was focus. Living without purpose is like sailing in a ship without a compass. The sea carries you from one side to another, but you never reach any port. And that sense of drifting is profoundly aging because the soul withers in apathy. Having a purpose, on the other hand, is like lighting an inner torch that gives you direction even in the dark. Here's a simple exercise. Write your purpose in 9 words, no more. Keep it short, clear, something you can recall upon waking. It could be as simple as care for my body and cultivate peace each day, or lovingly support those around me always. That statement becomes a portable compass you can check when you feel life dragging you along. Another practice I recommend is what I call the Tuesday map. It's not a 20-year life plan, it's a single page you write each week with one concrete action that brings you closer to your purpose. That way, you anchor it in the everyday, instead of leaving it as a distant ideal. What matters is moving it into action, even if it's small, even if it's imperfect. In Ecclesiastes, I once read a phrase that has stayed with me. To everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven. Ecclesiastes 3:1. It reminds me that there's no age limit to start living with purpose. If you're here, you still have time. So ask yourself calmly, what story do you want your life to tell in the years you have left? You don't need to answer now, but let that question accompany you. Sometimes the discomfort of not having an answer is already the start of the search. Living without purpose ages us because it dries up the roots of the soul. But when you find your why, even a small one, you rejuvenate instantly, because you know every day counts. And the truth is, as long as you have breath, you still have time to choose where to steer your journey. Number 10, isolating yourself without meaning to. Isolation is one of those habits that seems harmless at first, but slowly drains vitality. And the curious thing is, many times we don't isolate ourselves consciously. It just happens. Maybe you say, I talk on WhatsApp, I watch the news, I listen to the radio. But in reality, your daily life is slipping away without real connections, without eye contact, without long conversations, without shared laughter. And what gets lost there isn't just company, it's health. Science has proven it countless times, but experience confirms it too. Isolation ages more than smoking or eating poorly because it kills the spirit before the body. I saw this up close with a woman I accompanied for a time. After becoming a widow, she slowly withdrew from everything. She didn't want to bother her children, didn't want to burden her friends. Months went by, and her circle grew smaller until she hardly spoke to anyone. She told me, I just don't have anything interesting to share anymore. But when she began walking weekly with a neighbor, when she dared to go back to a sewing workshop, something shifted. She started smiling again, getting excited about things. Her eyes lit up. She didn't get her husband back, but she did recover a part of herself she had buried with him. The book of Proverbs says, whoever isolates himself seeks his own desire. He breaks out against all sound judgment. Proverbs 18:1. And how true that is. Prolonged isolation locks us inside our own thoughts, robs us of perspective, and makes us believe life is already over. But sharing, even in small gestures, reminds us that we're still part of the world, that our voice and presence still matter. I want to suggest a simple connection plan. You don't need a packed social calendar. Just 3 things. 2 intentional phone calls each week and 1 walk with company. It could be with a family member, a friend, a neighbor. What matters is that they aren't superficial, "How are you?" conversations. Ask real questions, really listen, share what you carry inside. And if taking the first step feels hard, remember this. No one is ever burdened by a sincere gesture of companionship. You can also rebuild community at any age. I've seen women in their 70s and 80s start fresh in dance groups, book clubs, painting workshops. It's not too late. It's never too late. What ages us isn't time itself, but isolation convincing us that we have nothing left to give. Ask yourself today, when was the last time you truly laughed with someone face to face? If you can't remember, maybe it's time to build a bridge. Isolating yourself without meaning to steals years from you because it dims your spirit. But choosing to connect, even in small ways, brings back life, hope, and that youth of the heart that doesn't depend on the calendar, but on the bonds you nurture. Number 11, the daily drink. A little drink with lunch, a glass of wine to sleep better, a liqueur after dinner with friends. It seems harmless, even elegant. But that daily habit ages you on the inside much faster than you think. Alcohol doesn't just affect the liver, it interferes with deep sleep, dehydrates the skin, inflames the joints, and steals mental clarity. It's a thief disguised as a social companion, one that promises calm but leaves you with the bill of fatigue, wrinkles, and an unsteady mood. I proved it to myself when I decided, almost out of curiosity, to stop drinking for 30 days. Not because I thought I was an alcoholic, but because I wanted to know how the body feels without that social detail so normalized. The first week felt strange, like something was missing at the table. But from the second week on, I noticed an incredible change. I slept better, woke up with a clear mind, and even my skin looked different. That's when I understood that the small daily drink wasn't as small as I thought. The big problem is that alcohol has become part of routine, not just an occasional event. And the body, especially after 50 or 60, doesn't process it the way it used to. What once seemed tolerable now leaves deeper marks. More fatigue, more pain, more aging. Science confirms it, but experience shouts it even louder. I want to suggest something I call a curious sobriety contract. It's not an eternal vow or a moral prohibition. It's simply testing 30 days without alcohol, with 3 simple markers: how you sleep, how your mood feels, and how your clarity of mind changes. Write it down in a notebook and observe. That curiosity can reveal things no doctor or book could tell you, because you'll see it in your own body. Of course, there's the fear of, what will people think if I say no? I know, because I lived it the first time I refused wine at a dinner. People looked at me strangely, made jokes. I smiled and said, "This time I'd rather have water. It makes me feel better." And nothing bad happened. The world kept turning, and that night I slept better than I had in years. That simple experience taught me that many times we keep harmful habits just to fit into a social script that no longer makes sense for us. The Bible warns in Proverbs 21, "Wine is a mocker, strong drink is raging, and whoever is deceived by it is not wise." It's not a condemnation. It's a reminder that wisdom lies in measure, in not being ruled by anything that robs you of freedom. So ask yourself today, do you drink because you truly enjoy that glass, or because it's automatic? Are you choosing it, or is the habit choosing for you? The daily drink ages you because it becomes an invisible shackle. But when you dare to let it go, even for a while, you discover that true calm, true rest, and true vitality aren't found at the bottom of a glass, but within you. Number 12, all or nothing perfection. Perfectionism is one of those traps that looks like a virtue, but actually wears down the soul and speeds up aging. Living with the idea that everything has to be flawless is like walking around with a whip in your hand. Every mistake, every detail out of place becomes a reason for punishment. And when you live like that, there's no room for rest, enjoyment, or peace. The body shows it with constant tension, insomnia, muscle pain, and the feeling that nothing is ever enough. I fell into that cycle for a time. I wanted everything I did to be perfect, my work, my projects, even my conversations. And of course, the only thing I got in the end was exhaustion and frustration. I remember one moment in particular. I had to submit a text, and though it was already fine, I kept editing and re-editing for hours, chasing a perfection that never came. I ended up drained, with a headache, and without the satisfaction of having created something meaningful. That's when I realized that obsessive perfectionism is a guaranteed recipe for burnout. Psychologist Kristin Neff, a pioneer in the study of self-compassion, explains that treating ourselves harshly doesn't make us better. It just robs us of energy. Practicing compassion toward ourselves doesn't mean being complacent, but recognizing that good enough is sometimes the wisest choice. That insight changed my life. I learned to ask myself, is this extra effort bringing me closer to health and serenity, or stealing both from me? That simple question helped me let go of pointless demands. Stoicism also speaks to this, though in a different language. Seneca said that what's necessary is already within reach, and that everything else is luxury that can turn into tyranny. Perfectionism is exactly that tyranny. Never accepting what's already good, trying to control even what doesn't depend on you. And that wear is aging, because it never lets you rest in what you've achieved. Here's a practical exercise I call the 3-question reality check. First, is what I'm demanding of myself really necessary? Second, would anyone else even notice if it were imperfect? Third, what am I losing in health and peace by trying to make it perfect? Answering honestly can free you from an obsession that serves no purpose. I remember one episode where I let go of perfectionism, though at first it stung. I was scheduled to give a talk. Everything was prepared, but the day before my voice was hoarse. I could have cancelled or tortured myself trying to make it sound perfect. Instead, I accepted I would speak however I could, with that worn-out voice. And you know what happened? The talk turned out more human, more relatable. In the end, people thanked me precisely for the authenticity. That experience taught me that perfection doesn't connect. Humanity does. Ask yourself today, in what areas of your life are you aging unnecessarily by demanding a perfection that no one else expects from you? The habit of all or nothing perfection ages you because it drains your energy in useless battles. But when you learn to be compassionate with yourself, you regain freshness, freedom, and a youthful air that doesn't come from the skin, but from the lightness of accepting that enough can also be beautiful. Number 13. Barely seeing the sun. The sun is one of vitality's greatest allies, yet we often treat it like an enemy or a luxury. We spend our days indoors, surrounded by walls and screens, stepping out only when absolutely necessary. That lack of natural light ages us more than we realize. It's not just about vitamin D. The sun regulates our internal clock, stabilizes mood, strengthens bones, and reminds the body it's alive. When you barely see the sun, it's as if life dims in slow motion, stealing joy and energy without you even noticing. I experienced this myself when I moved to a city where winter seemed endless. I spent weeks under artificial light, working indoors, and soon I noticed a strange sadness, unexplained fatigue, and even sleep problems. That's when I decided to go outside for at least 10 minutes every morning to catch some sun, even in the freezing cold. The change was immediate. I slept better, my energy leveled out, and my mood lifted again. It wasn't magic. It was nature reminding me of the obvious. The human body needs light as much as it needs food. When you deprive yourself of it, your whole system falls out of balance. The funny thing is, we often think getting sun means long walks, when really just a few minutes a day is enough. What matters is the ritual. Opening the window early, taking a short walk, letting the light touch your skin and your eyes. It's a reminder that there's still a world outside your inner worries. I want to suggest a very simple morning ritual. As soon as you wake up, step outside for 10 minutes. You don't need to do anything special, just be there, fully present. Feel the warmth on your skin, listen to the sounds, breathe deeply. It's like resetting your nervous system for the day, and if you can, add a mindful walk engaging all 5 senses. Notice the colors, hear the sounds, touch the textures, smell the scents, taste the air. That refreshes you more than any supplement ever could. Ecclesiastes says, "To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the heaven." Ecclesiastes 3:1. I believe that applies here too. There's a time to be indoors, but also a time to step out and let life reach you in the form of sunlight and fresh air. To deny your body that time is to deny it one of its oldest sources of energy. I once knew a woman who, after years of feeling dim inside, decided to visit a nearby park every week. At first, she did it reluctantly, almost dragging her feet. But over time, she began to look forward to it. She walked, greeted people, sat under a tree, and one day she told me something beautiful. I didn't get younger in age, but I did in spirit. That's what the sun does. It doesn't erase years, but it does awaken life. Ask yourself today, how long has it been since you truly felt sunlight on your skin? Maybe the youth you think you've lost is waiting outside in something as simple as opening the door and letting life in. Because barely seeing the sun doesn't just age the body, it dims the soul. We've walked together through 13 habits that, without you noticing, may be stealing your youth, your energy, and your peace. From resentment that silently piles up to the sunlight you hardly see anymore, passing through sugar that only soothes for a moment, late-night screens, shallow breathing, isolation disguised as routine, and that perfectionism that never lets you rest. This hasn't been a journey of complaints, but of awareness. Because once you name these habits, they stop being invisible, and you begin to take back power over your life. If there's one thing I want you to take away today, it's that aging is not the same as resignation. It doesn't matter if you're 50, 60, or 70, you can still choose how to walk through the time you have left. You can let go of old burdens, move with more ease, breathe better, sleep with dignity, give your days purpose, and above all, remind yourself that the youth of the soul doesn't depend on the calendar, but on your daily choices. Thank you from the heart for staying until the end, for giving me your time and your attention in this long, deep conversation. I'm Gabriel, and this channel, The Stoic Garden, exists to help you live with wisdom, self-love, and purpose, even in the challenges of age. I'd love for you to tell me in the comments which country you're watching from. It moves me to see from which corners of the world this community blossoms. And I want to invite you to seal today's lesson with a powerful phrase. Write in the comments, "I live with wisdom." Let that be your declaration of independence from the habits that steal your vitality. Share this video with a sister, a friend, or someone close to you. You never know when these words might be exactly the encouragement someone else needs. Thank you again for joining me, for daring to face what makes us age, and for committing to release what no longer serves you. Now, on your screen, you'll see 2 videos that will surely be of interest. Choose one and continue this path of reflection and practice. Because wisdom, like life, is something we cultivate every single day.